It's my privilege to welcome you to this special occasion as we gather to dedicate Winter Hall for Science and Mathematics. As many of you know, this day has been a long time in coming. Discussions with the county about this and other buildings began more than 15 years ago. We would not be here today were it not for the persistence of many, including former Presidents David Winter and Stan Gady and their staff members. In addition, the Westmont's Board of Trustees, as well as the many, many friends, including many of you, who testified at our hearings and wrote to our elected officials. How fitting it is then that we have former Presidents Winter and Gady with us today, as well as Westmont trustees and our trustees emeriti. Of course, this day would also not be possible were it not for the public officials who voted on multiple occasions in support of the college's updated master plan. Two of these, County Supervisor Brooks Firestone and Salud Carbajal, both send their greetings and are especially grateful for the work of Westmont in our community. We're forever grateful for their support, which enables the college to provide its faculty and students with facilities that are appropriate for their academic endeavors at one of the nation's best liberal arts colleges. It's with deep gratitude that we dedicate Winter Hall for Science and Mathematics today and Adams Center for the Visual Arts tomorrow. I want to acknowledge and thank all those involved in Winter Hall, and let me begin by thanking the faculty who worked with campus planner Randy Jones and the architects employed by the college to work on Winter Hall. With the faculty in mathematics and computer science, physics and psychology, as well as campus master planner Randy Jones and Doug Jones, please stand and be recognized. Then I'd also like to thank the following individuals, and would they please stand, or at least step from the crowd if you're already standing in the back. Design architects Ken Radke with Blackbird Associates and David Van Hoy. Are Ken and David here? Yeah, thank you, Ken. Executive architect Norman Pfeiffer and his colleagues at Pfeiffer and Associates. Norman, thank you for coming. Landscape architect Susan Van Atta and her team at Van Atta Associates. I also see our campus master plan, or our land use attorney, David Fainer, here. David, thank you for coming out. And there were many, but first and foremost among them, the Milky Mat Construction that played such a key role, obviously, in constructing all the facilities. Are there representatives here today? Right back here. Thank you, guys. Cambridge Construction Management. Okay, they're back there, all right. American Heritage Landscape. Right, and Cold Springs Landscape. None of this would have been, all right, thank you. None of this would have been possible without the financial support that so many of you gave for this project. On behalf of Westmont students, faculty, staff, and trustees, enormously grateful for all that's happened. This time, I'd like to invite former President and Provost Stan Gady to offer some reflections on what these buildings mean and what the mission of Westmont stands for. Stan?
Thank you, Gail. Well, this is just a really, really, really good moment. Did I say really? Really? It's absolutely true. I've had some pretty good moments on this campus, as many of you know, including the moment that Judy said yes up at Bosque Isle Chapel up there many years ago. But this is one of the best. Not quite there, but pretty close. Why? Well, because something has happened here that is pretty close to a miracle, I'd say. Not too many years ago, we were told that this would never happen, couldn't happen, shouldn't happen. And some pretty strong forces were assembled to make sure that this day would not come to pass. But it has, nevertheless. And today we gaze not only upon an extraordinary new science facility, but an entire campus, renewed, refreshed, restored, and redesigned for the purpose that it was given to us in the first place. And honestly, at this moment, when I look around and see what has happened, about the only thing that I can say is thanks be to God. Because for this day, I am deeply, deeply grateful. Grateful, first of all, to Dave and Helene Winter, our friends and mentors who got this project going in the first place, both in terms of the idea, but also the capital campaign. The naming of this building in honor of you, David, is entirely right and good and wonderful. So bless you, David and Helene, for all that you have done for Westmont and for us all these years. I am also grateful to all of those who have given of themselves to make this project a reality from day one. And Gail has mentioned a number. I'm thinking right now of the trustees who have been such a huge blessing to this college and to its leadership, but also to donors and alumni and friends and neighbors all around, whose generosity both in spirit and in truth made this building a reality. I'm grateful as well to the faculty who are now ensconced in these hallowed halls, but had to wait a long, long, long time to get here. Our science faculty have been far, far superior to their facilities for years. I know that. They told me when I arrived, and they were right. So bless you, faculty, and enjoy. I'm also grateful to the team that worked with David and then me, and now Gail, to bring this facility into being. And there are just too many people here to name, and a few have been named, but I see many of you right now, and you know who you are, and I know what you endured to get to this point. And I want to say bless you as well. And of course, I cannot stop without thanking one more person for his leadership in this time. President Beebe, thank you. Thank you for jumping into the boat while it was still midstream and setting the sails once again, being faithful to what you were given by the dolt before you, that would be me, but also being willing to make course corrections as needed to bring this day into being. Bless you, Gail. And last but certainly not least, I am of course grateful to the one and only one who really made all this possible, the one who is faithful and who cannot be deterred by either the winds of nature nor the stupidities of mankind, because he made us all. We are his, this building is his, this community is his, and for his glory it shall remain. That is my prayer, and that is my confident hope. And so I say, once again, thanks be to God.
Good afternoon. My name is Vince Nelson, Westmont graduate of the class of 1963. Chairman of the College Board of Trustees, I'm delighted to share with you some of the ways that our trustee board has chosen to honor special friends of the college in and around Winter Hall. Your first clue is the name of the building itself, the David K. Winter Hall for Science and Mathematics. How fitting it is that this building bears the name of a former president who, during his 25 years of service, promoted the importance of the sciences and Christian liberal arts education, and who began the drive to construct this important facility. The board also commissioned the oil painting of Dr. Winter that graces the upper entrance to the building. I am pleased that a list of donors who gave $1,000 or more in honor of President Winter at his retirement is prominently displayed near the oil painting. There are other evidences of Board of Trustees action within Winter Hall. I particularly want to highlight three of the more visible public areas within the building. Two of these spaces reflect generous gifts from foundations: the Darling Foundation Lecture Hall, the most visited and recognizable classroom in the building, and the Wing for Mathematics and Computer Science, which will be named in recognition of a gift from the Maricos Foundation. A representative of the Maricos Foundation is unable to be with us today. I also want to highlight the Johnston Learning Lounge, named for Roy and Naomi Johnston. Roy served for 32 years as a Westmont trustee, 18 of them as as board chair. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to thank members of the Darling Foundation, the Maricos Foundation, and the Johnson family for their generous gifts, and to let you know that other naming opportunities still remain in Winter Hall. Don't line up right here, please. With us today are Richard Stack, trustee of the Hugh and Hazel Darling Foundation, and members of Roy Johnson's family. I invite them to stand or raise their hands so that we can recognize them. Thank you. Finally, I am pleased to bring to your attention 2 items outside Winter Hall that are the result of board action. The first is the naming of the garden that wraps in front of Winter Hall and extends down to the Rose Garden at the end of the building, is indicated on a plaque at the end of the sidewalk heading to the gym. This is the Helene Winter Garden in honor of Helene Winter's extraordinary contributions to the Westmont community. And within the within the garden is a statue commissioned by the Board of Trustees of David and Helene Winter. The sculptors, Jim and Trina Nelson, are with us today. Would they stand or raise their hands so we can recognize them? Thank you. So it is time for the unveiling. David and Helene, would you please come forward and join me in cutting the ribbon into the Helene Winter Garden and unveiling the statue of the 2 of you. And as the winners come forward, let's express to them our appreciation for their extraordinary contributions to Westmont. Here's the podium.
Well, good evening, and I want to first acknowledge the Westmont Board of Trustees, the faculty and staff, students, and so many friends of Westmont. It means a great deal to us for you to honor us in this way. Before I say anything else, I want to acknowledge the role that my precious wife, Elaine, has played in my life, and certainly over the last 23 years, wonderful years. People commonly talk about this, and I've finally become accustomed to it, and I think I can handle it, but they say that, well, yeah, Dave was a pretty good president, but when he married Helene, things got a lot better. And no one in the world knows the truth of that better than I do. But she never bargained on, or of course she didn't bargain, but she never anticipated what it would mean to deal with my blindness. And to be the partner of someone who is blind is a special challenge. And she has done that with such grace and sensitivity and love. Whenever we're walking, she's looking ahead to see if there's any danger. This has become part of who she is, to be thinking about me in that way. And so I can't possibly express my love for her and a deep appreciation for what she has meant to my life. So thank you. I think it was last Sunday afternoon, it finally hit me that, you know, this is going to happen. To accept it, to acknowledge it, was pretty overwhelming. And I guess I didn't want to really think very much about it until that point. But I knew that it also meant that I would need to make a few remarks. And, you know, what do you say on an occasion like this? For all other things, I go to Google, and I did try that. I put in, you know, when you're being honored for the naming of a building, and when you and your wife are having a sculpture made of you at a Southern California Christian college. Most every time you do this, about 135,000 things come up. Nothing came up. It was a total blank page. And then it occurred to me, you know, this is really, this is a big deal. This doesn't happen a lot. And so here I am in front of the mic, and I'm on my own. As you can imagine, we're just overwhelmed, but there are some things that come through. And one of them is that we're deeply, sincerely grateful. We're grateful to the Westmont Board of Trustees for the decision they made some years ago. We're grateful to President Beebe for this event. We're grateful to Walter and Darlene Hanson, who had so much to do with the sculpture. And of course, we're grateful to Jim and Trina Nelson for their artistic ability. But, you know, there's a mixture of feelings that, again, I think you can imagine. We ask ourselves, you know, is this really appropriate? Is this really deserved? How many people do we know who seemingly deserve this kind of thing more than we do? I thought of people like Rusty Springer, who I actually knew as a friend at Wheaton College as an undergrad, who became such a major force and influence in our San Francisco urban program with literally thousands of students. I thought of Jose Velasquez, who joined the college soon after I did and is still here today making this campus so beautiful. He comes by the house with some produce that he has grown in his own yard at home. I think of so many people who are not named. Dorothy Kagi comes to my mind. She was secretary to 2 or 3 presidents and was so loyal and positive and faithful and effective. And Dr. Ed Potts, who's here today, who was my assistant for at least a dozen years, maybe longer. And he's the one who behind the scenes would help me and prepare me for the numerous tasks that I would need to try to perform. What a marvelous person. But then I think of a Bob Wenberg and a Bob Gundry and a Stuart Ensign and a Cliff Benton, and you know, there's just the lists go on. People who gave themselves to this college, this ministry, so effectively and so conscientiously. Of course, I think of Stan and Judy Gady. It's almost like yesterday. I remember it so well, sitting in Founders' dining room. I don't know if it was named that at that point. And listening to Stan talk to the faculty. This was part of the interview process before he was invited to join the school. And the way he articulated our mission and the liberal arts and the Christian commitment, it literally brought tears to my eyes. To think that he might give us leadership in the future. And I knew that that leadership would be significant. So there, and of course we do have the Gady Institute, and we're thankful for that, but there's so much credit that both Stan and Judy deserve. And so when I thought about all the people who are not being recognized, I started to get a bit depressed and discouraged. And I called Chris Call, and I said, Chris, how many other people have been honored at Westmont? And he called back and said, you know, there's over 75 plaques or some kind of recognition of people for rooms, for buildings, for fields, for projects. And that did make me feel a bit better. In fact, that's really wonderful. And yet, of course, there are thousands of people who have contributed and made Westmont what it is today. But then something else happened. I started thinking about the people for whom buildings on our campus have been named and realized that I served here so long that in many cases I knew these people. I know them personally. Helene and I have come to know them and be with them, and that was rather exciting. What a history these names are. And I wish there were ways for our students to know these people as we were privileged to know them. Just a couple in particular, the Geezers. Now, you probably don't know the Geezers. Ernest and Deborah Geezer. They sent a postcard to Westmont asking for information about the school. And Gordon Caswell, the time of vice president, responded and ended up visiting them in Arizona. And within a year or so, they decided to give us a building, or a large part of the cost of the building. And we were really pleased that they chose not to have it named for them. Mrs. Geezer was Deborah Clark. And I visited them several times in Arizona. It had nothing to do with their gift. This was long after that. But just to visit these dear people was a great inspiration to me. And then, of course, there's so many buildings here. But Peg Lovick Field. Peg and I were actually in the faculty at Wheaton at the same time. She became chair of physical education here, now kinesiology. And really a marvelous person. I wish I could talk more about her. Her close friend, Marge Peterson, who served faithfully and effectively on our board of trustees. They were very, very close friends. And then Russ Carr. Russ Carr came to Westmont to start a football program. And after he got here, he learned from the college that they had changed their mind. Instead of football, it was to be soccer. And Russ had never played soccer. But consistent with who he was, he became a legendary coach of an outstanding soccer program for many years, and finally left Westmont to found a Christian mission to Africa called Sports Outreach, particularly focusing on Uganda. What a marvelous person. And then, of course, the Kerrs. I never really knew Mrs. Kerr, and she certainly didn't know me, but I was in her presence. But I certainly am thankful that Helene and I could come to know Bill and Beverly Kerr. Just really pretty special people. And their commitment to Westmont, their generosity, was a great testimony and inspiration, and we have maintained a close friendship with them until Beverly passed away, and then Bill recently passed away. And of course, we have several buildings named for the Kerr family. And then the Adams, Denise and Steve. Helene and I are so thankful to have had the opportunity, the privilege to bring them into the Westmont family. And in the process, Steve became a real believer, an authentic, deep, and committed Christian, which was at least as important as anything, well, more important than anything else. Once Steve told me that Westmont was the single most important thing in Denise's life. And so the joy they received from that is now memorialized in the Adams Art Center. And if you haven't seen the marvelous painting of Steve and Denise, please do that. Painted by John Nova, one of the finest artists of this kind in the country. Don Whittier. I knew of Don, but I didn't have any access to him, and a mutual friend invited Don to my office on campus, and I was able to talk to them about the need for a science building, and then actually took them on a little tour and showed them where we were going to place the science building. And within 7 days, Don came back with a check for $1 million. I'd never seen a check that large before. And it goes on and on. The Armingtons, a wonderful couple. Roger Voskuil, the Armingtons were going to have the library named for them, and the night before, they told the college, no, we want it to be named for Roger Voskuil. And then later the college, of course, named the Armington Residence Hall for them. But, you know, there are just a lot of other names, and I won't go through them. My point is that Westmont has an extraordinary heritage, and it's not just this wonderful campus. It's people. Wonderful people who have made the college what it is today. And this is the only way we can accept this honor, by you understanding that we are simply part of those people, some named and some unnamed, who had such a significant role in bringing this all about. We pray that the Lord will bless this college in the years to come. We thank the Lord for those who have passed. We thank the Lord for those who are here right now. And we thank the Lord for those who will yet join the Westmont family in the years ahead to maintain this very distinctive and special and significant mission and heritage. Thank you very much.
David, thank you. And Helene, it's wonderful to be able to honor you. Congratulations. Two other members of our community, Trustee Walter Hansen and Acting Provost Rick Pointer, have been invited to add some words of appreciation today. Dr. Hansen will speak in terms of the sculpture, and Dr. Pointer in terms of the building. Gentlemen.
Darlene, if you would join me, because this has been a great project that you and I have launched 4 years ago. And also then TJ Dixon and Jim Nelson, if you would join us as well up here. TJ Dixon and Jim Nelson were chosen out of, I don't know a number, but Tony Askew went through a number of pages, and then somehow we came upon you, thank God. And what a great work you've given to us here. Thank you. You can see all over the country in San Diego and Southern California or South Carolina and Florida and all over the place. I have lists and lists of things you've done, but we are so grateful to have this work that you have given to us here. I think above all, what I enjoy of this work is that it captures the exuberance, the vivacity, the liveliness of the Winters. You have a sense of them just about to join you on the sidewalk here, and I don't know how you do that with bronze, but you make them have a sense of being fully alive there, and have that energy of their love for each other and for Westmont and for the Lord. And that's the kind of energy that you've put into bronze that we're so grateful for. So we want to thank you, Jim and TJ, for the work that you've given to us here on Westmont College campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it's my great honor to say a few words of appreciation for this marvelous building on behalf of the Westmont faculty, administration, staff, and students. We've heard a number of folks already, including Presidents Beebe and Gady, indicate that this structure certainly would not have come about or been here apart from the vision and generosity of so many folks. So I want to take just a couple of moments here to single out groups of people for whom we are especially grateful today. Let me begin by expressing great thanks to all of our donors for their sacrificial giving, for their trust in Westmont College, and for their belief in the value of Christian liberal arts education. As you know, over the course of the last 9 months, this building has been very well used. From the first day of first semester last August till this afternoon, it has been active, alive with the learning process. And for that, we're deeply grateful for those of you who have provided the funding to make that possible. Then to my dear friends, the Winters, let me convey our deepest gratitude for your leadership and strong commitment to Westmont, and specifically today to the sciences at Westmont. David, it was during your presidency when the college in a whole new way embraced the central value and importance of a robust natural and behavioral science program for our students' liberal arts education. And this new building is an exquisite testament to the path you charted. So thank you. We're also very grateful today for all those who designed and constructed this facility. We've mentioned a number of folks, from the architects to the construction companies to the landscape designers, as well as those many Westmont employees who had a hand in shaping its outcome. Collectively, we appreciate your creativity, your skillful work, and the expeditious way in which you got the job done. Finally, let me conclude as provost with words of appreciation for my colleagues on the faculty who teach and will teach in Winter Hall. Members of the physics, psychology, and mathematics and computer science departments, as well as faculty from many other departments, are now utilizing these amazing classrooms, labs, and offices. They're doing so with renewed energy, enthusiasm, and innovation. The result is nothing less than a faithful and appropriate stewarding of this great gift called Winter Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Walter. As we now dedicate the David K. Winter Hall for Science and Mathematics, I invite forward the chairs of the department in Winter Hall. For Mathematics and Computer Science, Chair Patty Hunter. For Physics, Chair Ken Kilstrom. And for Psychology, co-chairs Brenda Smith and Tom Fikes. This time I'd also like to invite forward those who will lead us in our dedicatory prayer following the unveiling of the plaque. Trustee Bob Cates, Chair of the Trustee Academic Committee, Professor Tom Fikes, Vice Chair of the Faculty, and student Meg Anders, a 2011 graduate in psychology. Okay, as they unveil the plaque, it reads, Winter Hall for Science and Mathematics, dedicated May 2011, for by Christ all things were created. All things were created by him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Colossians 1:16 and 17. Thank you.
Would you please join us in response to prayer that is found in your bulletin? Almighty and eternal God, who is pleased to have all his fullness dwell in his Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, may those who study, learn, and teach here grow in their knowledge of you, of love of you. Your honor and glory. May all who inhabit it be drawn to adore you with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength.
Creator, sustainer, and redeemer, the source and foundation of time and space, matter and energy, life and consciousness. May those who teach and learn and conduct their research here come to know more truly your marvelous and complex creation.
Maker of heaven and earth, who has entrusted Westmont students with bright minds and futures. May those who study here be shaped and molded in spirit as well as in their understanding of your creation and your truth, that they may be vessels of your redeeming and reconciling work in this world.
Dave and Helene, this is a wonderful day. Thank you for being such a primary part of Westmont and for those wonderful remarks, reminding us of all those who have gone before us and inspire us today. Thank you for coming. I invite you now to tour the building and enjoy talking with some of the faculty and students who have spent the last year in this marvelous new facility. You'll find beverages and snacks in the atrium on the top floor, and we're just grateful for your attendance and your spirit of celebration. God be with you.